The cultural impact of this clash was profound. Trump's aggressive style resonated with people who wanted a leader who would fight loudly and visibly on their behalf. His approach tapped into feelings of frustration, anger, and a desire for immediate action. Obama's calm style resonated with those who valued thoughtfulness, unity, and long-term vision. His approach appealed to people who believed that leadership required stability and the ability to remain above the fray. This cultural divide amplified the personal clash between the two men, as their styles became symbols of broader political and social divisions in the country. Each represented not just a way of leading but also a worldview about what leadership should mean in America. The personal dynamic between Trump and Obama also reflected this clash. Trump often sought to challenge Obama directly, using intimidation and repeated criticism to undermine him. His style demanded confrontation because it was through conflict that he gained attention and influence. Obama, however, often chose to respond selectively, using humor or carefully crafted remarks to undercut Trump without appearing consumed by the attacks. This difference highlighted the essence of their clash. One man tried to dominate through force and persistence, while the other maintained authority by staying composed and responding with precision when necessary. The result was a constant tension that captured the attention of the public and the media, symbolizing a broader struggle between chaos and control. The long-term significance of this clash of leadership styles lies in how it shaped political discourse. Trump's rise demonstrated the power of aggression and spectacle in a media-driven world, while Obama's responses showed the enduring effectiveness of calmness and intellect. Together, their rivalry created a narrative that defined an era, one in which the public was forced to grapple with competing models of what it means to lead. The clash revealed that leadership is not only about decisions and policies but also about the way leaders carry themselves, the styles they embody, and the messages those styles send to the world. The clash of styles also reflected differences in how each man viewed power. For Trump, power was about asserting himself as the strongest voice in the room, demanding loyalty, and showing that he could not be challenged without consequence. He often used blunt force in his rhetoric, casting opponents as weak or unworthy. Obama, however, viewed power more in terms of influence and persuasion. He believed that strength could be shown through patience, dialogue, and the ability to rise above noise. Where Trump projected authority through volume and aggression, Obama projected authority through calm confidence. These competing interpretations of power created moments of stark contrast when the two crossed paths, as audiences could see clearly that one man thrived on confrontation while the other thrived on composure. Another element of this clash came from their communication styles. Trump's speeches and public statements were often simple, repetitive, and designed for immediate impact. He spoke in ways that appealed to raw emotions, using language that was accessible and unfiltered. His leadership style here was performative, built to connect quickly with audiences that valued straightforwardness and bluntness. Obama, on the other hand, spoke in a way that emphasized complexity and nuance. He drew on historical references, logical arguments, and carefully structured rhetoric. His speeches were crafted to appeal to reason as much as to emotion, showing that his leadership style valued depth and reflection. When these two styles collided, the contrast was jarring, with Trump portraying Obama as overly polished and detached, while Obama's approach made Trump appear reckless and shallow to others. The clash of leadership styles also influenced how they interacted with institutions and norms. Trump positioned himself as a disruptor, someone who rejected the traditional expectations of political behavior. He openly dismissed conventions, using his style to signal that he was different from the establishment. This made him appealing to people who felt alienated by the political system and wanted someone to challenge it directly. Obama, in contrast, often embraced the importance of institutions and traditions. His leadership was grounded in the idea that norms provided stability and that leaders should respect those boundaries to maintain trust in democracy. This created a symbolic clash, where Trump's disregard for norms stood in opposition to Obama's respect for them, offering voters two very different visions of what leadership should look like in a democratic society. Clash of leadership styles between Donald Trump and Barack Obama became one of the most striking features of modern American politics, shaping not only how they engaged with one another but also how the public perceived them. Trump's approach to leadership was rooted in confrontation, dominance, and the constant projection of strength. He relied on brash language, bold gestures, and an unapologetic disregard for political norms. His style was designed to create disruption, to command attention, and to show that he was unafraid to attack anyone who stood in his way. Obama, on the other hand, embodied a leadership style built on calmness, rationality, and measured responses. He valued diplomacy, intellectual engagement, and composure under pressure. These two drastically different styles clashed in the public sphere, creating a dynamic that revealed as much about the men themselves as it did about the political culture of the United States during their time. Trump's leadership style was deeply influenced by his background in business and television. He understood the value of spectacle and media attention, and he used these tools to dominate narratives. His focus was not on carefully crafted arguments but on delivering messages that were blunt, memorable, and often controversial. By doing so, he ensured that people were always talking about him, regardless of whether the conversation was positive or negative. This style of leadership thrived on energy and chaos, often pushing boundaries and testing limits. Against this backdrop, Obama's calm and methodical approach looked almost like the polar opposite. Obama often spoke with precision and chose his words carefully, emphasizing thoughtfulness over spectacle. His leadership projected stability and control, qualities that reassured supporters but often frustrated critics who preferred a more aggressive tone. The clash between these two styles was not just a personal rivalry. It represented two competing visions of leadership in American life. One clear example of this clash could be seen in how each man handled conflict. Trump preferred open confrontation, using direct attacks and intimidation to put opponents on the defensive. His strategy was to overwhelm and unsettle, often through repeated insults or exaggerated claims. This tactic kept him in the spotlight and made him appear unafraid of controversy. Obama, in contrast, leaned into restraint and subtlety. He did not rush to respond to every provocation, instead waiting for the right moment to address an issue. When he did respond, his words were measured and often carried an undercurrent of humor or irony. This difference highlighted two divergent philosophies, one that saw leadership as a performance of dominance and another that saw it as an exercise in discipline and control. Obama's responses also highlighted the importance of patience and timing in political communication. He did not respond to every jab or accusation from Trump, which would have given Trump more attention and power. Instead, he waited for moments when his words would resonate most, such as public events, interviews, or speeches. This selectivity made his clapbacks stand out more sharply because they were not overused. Each response carried weight because it felt intentional and necessary rather than reactive. In this way, Obama demonstrated the value of restraint in leadership, showing that sometimes the most powerful statement is the one delivered sparingly but with precision. The long-term effect of Obama's clapbacks was significant. While Trump continued to escalate his rhetoric and eventually transitioned into a political career that thrived on confrontation, Obama's handling of those early intimidation attempts established a narrative of contrast between the two men. For many observers, Obama's calmness highlighted Trump's volatility, and his wit emphasized Trump's lack of depth. These clapbacks became part of Obama's legacy as a communicator, remembered as moments when he demonstrated that dignity and composure could outshine aggression and bluster. They also foreshadowed the kind of divisive political environment that would emerge as Trump gained more influence, showing how important it was for leaders to model resilience and intelligence in their responses. Obama's approach to Trump's intimidation also had the effect of reminding the public about what leadership looks like when it is grounded in self-assurance rather than insecurity. His calmness conveyed confidence, while his words conveyed clarity. This combination allowed him to reframe moments of attack into opportunities to showcase his own strengths. Even when he was the target of baseless accusations, he turned those situations into moments of empowerment by responding in a way that uplifted his own image and undermined his attacker. For audiences watching at home and abroad, these moments reinforce the idea that leadership is about more than dominance. It is about control, resilience, and the ability to turn pressure into opportunity. Obama's clapbacks also carried cultural and symbolic weight. As the first black president, he was no stranger to racially coded attacks and attempts to delegitimize his authority. The birther conspiracy in particular was widely seen as racially motivated, designed to cast him as an outsider unworthy of the presidency. By responding calmly but decisively, Obama not only defended himself but also sent a message to those who looked up to him. His ability to remain composed in the face of such hostility was empowering to many Americans who experienced similar forms of discrimination in their own lives. His clapbacks were more than personal rebuttals. They became examples of how to handle prejudice and intimidation with strength and grace. The effectiveness of Obama's responses can also be understood in terms of psychological strategy. Trump thrived on provocation. His style depended on getting under his opponent's skin and drawing them into a fight on his terms. Obama refused to take the bait in that way. Instead, he chose when and how to respond, ensuring that his words landed with maximum effect. By doing so, he robbed Trump of the satisfaction of seeing him rattled. This approach reflected a deeper understanding of how to control a narrative. Rather than letting Trump dictate the terms of engagement, Obama used selective clapbacks to remind the public that he remained in control of his own image and authority. This psychological discipline was a hallmark of Obama's leadership, and it made his responses to Trump's intimidation all the more impactful. Another layer of Obama's clapbacks was their ability to blend humor with seriousness. Humor disarms opponents and engages audiences, but it can also carry a sting when used effectively. Obama's jokes about Trump were not empty insults. They were crafted to expose the absurdity of Trump's claims and to frame him as unserious. At the same time, the underlying message was serious. That the presidency and American democracy were too important to be distracted by baseless conspiracies. This ability to strike a balance between lightheartedness and gravity gave his clapbacks lasting influence. People remembered them not just because they were funny but because they revealed truth through humor. Barack Obama's calm yet powerful clapback in response to Donald Trump's intimidation tactics became a defining demonstration of his leadership style and personal composure. Unlike Trump, who thrived on aggressive rhetoric and constant confrontation, Obama carried himself with a sense of poise, intellect, and quiet confidence. He rarely descended into heated exchanges, preferring instead to respond with sharp wit, facts, and a measured tone. This contrast made his clapbacks all the more effective because they highlighted the difference between bluster and substance. When Trump tried to question Obama's legitimacy, background, or leadership, Obama's responses showed that true strength does not always come from the loudest voice but from the most controlled and precise one. His ability to respond without appearing flustered or angry allowed him to maintain authority and dignity, qualities that resonated with supporters and even earned grudging respect from critics. One of the most memorable moments of Obama's clapback against Trump came during the White House Correspondents' Dinner in 2011. At the time, Trump was heavily promoting the birther conspiracy, suggesting that Obama was not born in the United States and therefore not a legitimate president. This baseless claim was amplified in the media largely because Trump's celebrity status ensured coverage of his every statement. Many politicians might have chosen to ignore such a claim or to respond with visible frustration, but Obama used humor and timing as his weapons. In front of an audience filled with journalists, politicians, and celebrities, and with Trump himself in attendance, Obama delivered a speech that directly mocked the birther conspiracy while making Trump the butt of the joke. He presented the long-form birth certificate with comedic flair, then turned to lightheartedly questioning whether Trump should be trusted with more important issues like foreign policy when he was so focused on conspiracy theories about birth records. The crowd erupted in laughter, and cameras captured Trump sitting stone-faced, visibly uncomfortable. This moment was more than entertainment, it was a strategic clapback. Obama had turned Trump's intimidation attempt into a public embarrassment, showing that mockery delivered with confidence can be more powerful than confrontation. What made Obama's clapbacks resonate so deeply was his use of intelligence and subtlety. Instead of countering Trump's accusations with insults or shouting matches, he often relied on facts, irony, and timing. This method allowed him to maintain his presidential composure while still undercutting Trump's arguments. It was a demonstration of how someone could fight back without lowering themselves to their opponent's level. In politics, perception is everything, and Obama understood that appearing unshaken was just as important as the words he chose. His calm responses made Trump's aggression look excessive and even desperate by of Trump's attacks revealed how intimidation can be used as a long-term strategy. He did not stop with one or two comments, he carried on for years, hammering the same points over and over. This consistency made the intimidation more effective because it built a narrative over time. Even when disproven, the repetition of falsehoods created a lingering doubt among some people. Trump understood that perception can be just as powerful as truth in politics. By continuing to intimidate Obama with accusations and insinuations, he kept the idea alive that something about Obama was questionable, even if there was no evidence. This tactic was less about convincing everyone and more about convincing enough people to shift the conversation. Trump's intimidation of Obama also highlights the role of power dynamics in politics. At the time, Obama was the sitting president, the most powerful political figure in the country. Yet Trump, a businessman with no political office, was able to make his voice a constant presence in national discourse. This imbalance was part of the intimidation itself. By inserting himself so forcefully, Trump showed that he could challenge authority from the outside. For those watching, it looked like he was willing to take on the highest office in the land, which reinforced his image as fearless and unfiltered. The fact that he did this while holding no political position demonstrated the unique power of media manipulation and aggressive communication. The intimidation reached beyond politics and entered cultural conversations. Trump's comments about Obama were repeated in households, workplaces, and community spaces across the country. They fueled debates about race, identity, patriotism, and truth in politics. For many, Trump's tactics were seen as deeply disrespectful and racially motivated, while for others, they were seen as a bold refusal to be silenced. Either way, the effect was the same: Trump's voice became impossible to ignore. His intimidation tactics succeeded in drawing attention, shaping perceptions, and keeping Obama under constant scrutiny, regardless of how unjustified those attacks may have been. The nature of Trump's intimidation also reflected his background as a businessman and television personality. Coming from the world of real estate and reality TV, Trump had mastered the art of bravado and confrontation. He often used insults, insinuations, and exaggerated claims as a way to unsettle his opponents. With Obama, he adopted this same strategy, crafting an image of himself as the man willing to say what others would not. In doing so, he tapped into a media environment hungry for controversy. The more outrageous his claims, the more coverage he received, and the more pressure Obama faced to address or dismiss them. It was a cycle designed to keep Trump at the center of attention, while Obama had to carefully balance responding without dignifying baseless accusations. The intimidation here was subtle yet powerful, as it forced Obama into a defensive posture at times, even when the accusations had no grounding in reality. Trump's intimidation was also psychological. He targeted Obama's public persona, which was built on calmness, intellect, and rationality. By being loud, abrasive, and unapologetically aggressive, Trump positioned himself as the opposite, hoping to throw Obama off balance. The goal was to show that Obama's calm demeanor could be made to look weak in the face of bold attacks. Trump tried to create moments where Obama might lose composure or be forced into a reaction that didn't match his usual image. This was a classic intimidation tactic, trying to push someone out of their comfort zone so they could be portrayed as less effective or less authentic. At the same time, Trump's intimidation of Obama was not just personal, it was symbolic. By attacking Obama, he was also sending a message to the broader political establishment. He signaled that he would not play by the traditional rules of politics, where respect for the office of the president often prevented rivals from going too far. Trump tore down those norms, showing that he was willing to go after Obama in a way that was unprecedented. This appealed to people who felt that the political system was too polished and too distant from ordinary Americans. To them, Trump's brashness was refreshing, and his willingness to intimidate Obama was proof that he could stand up to anyone. Donald Trump's use of intimidation tactics against Barack Obama became one of the most defining features of their political rivalry. From the earliest days of Trump's emergence as a political figure, he understood the power of spectacle, media attention, and provocative statements. His approach was less about policy and more about creating a sense of dominance in the public sphere. With Obama as the first black president of the United States, Trump positioned himself as a loud critic, deliberately targeting Obama in ways that were meant to undermine his credibility and question his legitimacy. One of the most infamous examples of this was the birther conspiracy theory, where Trump claimed that Obama might not have been born in the United States. Though baseless and disproven repeatedly, Trump pushed this narrative for years, using press conferences, interviews, and especially social media to fuel doubts about Obama's presidency. This was intimidation by way of disinformation. An attempt to make people second-guess the very foundation of Obama's authority. What made Trump's tactics stand out was his willingness to go further than most political opponents would dare. Instead of criticizing Obama's policies in a traditional way, Trump attacked Obama's identity and background. He spoke in ways that cast Obama as an outsider, attempting to alienate him from the American public he served. By doing this, Trump appealed to certain segments of the population who already harbored suspicion or resentment toward Obama. The intimidation was not just personal, it was political, designed to weaken Obama's hold on public trust. This approach showed how Trump's strategy leaned heavily on confrontation and spectacle rather than nuance or diplomacy. For Trump, intimidation was not only a tool to challenge Obama but also a way to elevate his own profile in the political world. During Obama's presidency, Trump frequently used Twitter and media appearances to insert himself into the national conversation. By constantly targeting Obama, he ensured that his name stayed relevant in political discourse. He wanted to present himself as the bold outsider unafraid to challenge the sitting president. This was, in many ways, a rehearsal for Trump's eventual presidential campaign. His relentless focus on Obama kept him in the headlines and allowed him to rally support from people who were already skeptical of Obama's leadership. Every time Trump made another inflammatory comment about Obama, it was not just about criticizing a president, it was about shaping the political climate to favor Trump's rise. Intimidation here took the form of persistence, an unrelenting effort to overshadow Obama's achievements by constantly questioning his legitimacy.